In striving for a world record, Terry Wilmeth found in Graham Hicks, the man who established the land speed record in spite of being both blind and deaf, both inspiration and competition.
His goal was to ultimately get to 150, and we knew that. He was very public about that. We knew we had to come up with another way to go faster.
Terry's Air Force years gave him insights that might help him beat the record. A good grounding in aerodynamics.
Nothing you do in aviation is haphazard. You know, you think about it, there's a lot of rules involved. You're always thinking safety and the risk factors involved, and we applied that same thought process to developing the land speed ATVs. Aerodynamics was equally as important, you know, how to cut through the air.
To minimize drag, Terry knew he would have to have parts of the ATV custom made. Terry didn't have the resources he needed to mold the necessary body parts, so he invited Jeff Urbach of Full Bore Innovations to become the latest member of his record-making team.
Initially, you got to wonder if you can take him seriously.
Jeff and his company, Full Bore Innovations, are known worldwide for manufacturing high-performance bodies for all-terrain vehicles.
He designs incredible bodies. He's never satisfied with any original body on any ATV.
And you get a lot of phone calls and, well, I'm going to do this, or I want to do that, or what do you think of this? And, you know, just maybe about 1% of those actually are real, and Terry was one of those real ones.
But the most fascinating thing about what he does is he makes it not only look better, he makes it stronger.
It was new. I mean, what he wanted to do was open the door to a whole new type of racing and accomplish a record along the way.
Jeff and his team at Full Bore Innovations were solidly behind him. It was time to design the perfect land speed body. Jeff knew that building the perfect body was still not going to get Terry near the unprecedented speeds he was aiming for. So, he added another member to this team of do-it-yourself demons, Bonneville Salt Flat veteran and racing legend, Pete Fisher.
What we're basically trying to do is make sure Terry doesn't do something silly and hurt himself.
In the ATV community, he's literally legendary.
Engine builder, chassis builder, kind of a one-man army. He's been everywhere. He's held a couple records.
And he got involved with this bike in solving a lot of the aerodynamic issues we were faced with.
We've been able to transfer some of the technology we picked up at Bonneville back in the 80s onto this project.
He knew what it took to position the rider, position the bike, move the air out of the way, collapse the air behind it.
Pete's experience enlisting him in the whole thing, and his experience with Bonneville and a chassis setup, you know, it's just proved to be a real good combination.
With those two guys put together, I had an incredible, team of guys.
As Pete wrestled with the problem of aerodynamics, Terry turned to the challenge of getting the ATV up to extreme speeds.
We took the engine, we sent it down to Alba, and they almost doubled the horsepower of that engine. But we still couldn't turn the gears that we needed to turn to get the sustained speeds we wanted.
And so, they went with the power tool of the pros, nitrous oxide.
We heard about nitrous systems. You know, a lot of fast cars, a lot of drag bikes used it.
Boss Noss and their nitrous fuel injection systems were exactly what he was looking for.
So we went to Jim over at Boss Noss, and he came back and said, yeah, I can design you a system that will absolutely get you the power we need.
With a new aerodynamic body and the improved nitrous system, Terry and the team took the bike out for testing. Terry was stunned by the results.
We tripled the horsepower. We were hitting 115, 120 miles per hour and holding it.
For a single-cylinder ATV that was designed to go only 60 miles an hour, 120 was a spectacular achievement. But for Terry and the team, this was nowhere near fast enough.
I want my ATV to do 150 and hold that speed.
Team Terry had caught wind of an outfit in California who were also pushing the speed limits of an ATV. Suddenly, there was competition. Terry turned his mind back to his Air Force days, working with jets to uncover what was missing. He had an aerodynamic body and a heavy-duty nitrous system. What else could he do to power this little ATV to record-breaking speeds?
I thought, you know, why can't we take a rocket and just help this thing along?
A rocket? On an ATV? The more Terry thought about the idea, the more he liked it. But there was a problem. Where do you get a rocket?
Could I get my hands on one? Now you gotta remember, this was post 9/11. I made a couple of phone calls, and next thing you know, I was actually getting phone calls from people that were wondering why was I looking for a rocket motor.
Terry couldn't buy a rocket, and he couldn't make one himself. He needed to add another member to the team, a rocket scientist. Only one man came to mind, the man they call the Rocketeer, Kai Michelson.
He is, in my opinion, probably the genius of Rocketeers.
Over the last 50 years, Kai Michelson set dozens of national and international speed records, created mind-blowing stunts that changed the look of Hollywood films, and led the first team of Rocketeers to launch a rocket into space. There isn't anything he can't make go fast, as long as he can strap a rocket to it.
He took rocket engines and I think installed them on everything, including a toilet. In the course of just a couple of phone calls, he told me how I could make it work. And I wanted to make it to where we could literally put it on and take it off and it's still an ATV. That's what we did. I sat down and started, playing around with the physics of it. It's one thing to design it on paper though, and it's another thing to build a working model of it.
One final member would make his team complete. He needed someone who could build a rocket. Ray Greenleaf.
I was told that if you could draw it or describe it, that he could build it.
I never built a rocket before. I really didn't know actually how they worked.
Even if he didn't, he could figure it out without all the fancy computers and machines and factories. Ray would build the rocket old school, in his backyard machine shop.
I just made my sketches and did a little machine work, and Terry had his rocket.
No fool, Terry decided that the first time he tested his homemade rocket-powered ATV, he would do it unmanned.
Took about 5 bungee cords, tied it all down, lit it with a match, put a little oxygen to it, and the thing went into high power boost right away, and it headed that direction. And it didn't stop until it actually had left the concrete, bounced off the shed, hit the cherry tree, and went down into the creek.
For the second attempt, Terry left the backyard and took the still unmanned rocket-powered ATV to a safer location, the streets of Amity, Oregon.
This time we used about 10 bungee cords and aimed it down this road here. Put a little bit of oxygen and nitrous to it, tossed a match up the tailpipe. It lit off when it started to take off down the street. It went down this road, off to the left into the lawn at the elementary school, and we had just enough nitrous for it to burn for about 15 seconds. Right about the time it got there, it stopped burning. Realized that we probably shouldn't do that again.
The rocket worked. Time for Terry to test the machine with a pilot. And that pilot was Terry.
We actually took it to Sand Lake, off-road, paddle tires and all, and did our very first test on the bike in an off-road condition. So we go out of the sand, and I fired off that rocket, and I went tearing off the sand.
While tearing around the national park on his ATV/rocket, Terry caught the attention of an onlooker with a video camera. The video hit YouTube, and suddenly, thousands were thrilling to Terry's rocket-powered antics. But the National Park Service takes a dim view of testing rockets in its parks.
Unfortunately, there was a video made of it, and it hit the internet, and a lot of people saw it. I could never go back to those tunes and do that again. They were watching for me.